unless you have to mow.
That's true.
You got a lot to mow.
Yeah, but I like to, so.
Yeah.
Keeps me out of trouble.
Except on those days when it's 100 out.
Yeah,
Nobody likes that.
no, I won't do it. Just want to start a minute early, since we're all here. Call to order the Stuart Municipal Utility Special Meeting, Council Chambers, tentative agenda, Monday, August 3rd, 2026, 5 p.m. Roll call. Herrick,
Here.
Neal,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Belden,
Here.
Avey here. Agenda approval.
I'll move.
A second?
Second.
Okay, how do you vote? Herrick,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Belden,
Yep.
Avey. Okay, 4 and 5 goes together. The proposed employee cost share agreement and the staff planning. The reason I put the staff planning on, I'm looking at longevity. Like, say Pat has 2 to 3 years to go. What I would like to see to do is maybe 6 months before he goes, that we could hire like a general manager instead of a supervisor, because that way the general manager would do the same thing as what Pat does, but he'd be doing the budget and everything. Ben pretty much does everything for the water, and Dustin usually does pretty much everything for electric, right? So, and that general manager would just be the boss like what Pat was over them. Also, another thing I would like to see to do, and I like to see do this now, do a little bit at a time, and do this one now, make Ashley our full-time utility clerk. So, cause she pretty much does, right now, pretty much a lot of the utility stuff. So what I would like to do is make her the full-time utility clerk. So the only difference that she would have that she doesn't do now is she would come and take our minutes at the meetings. And I think that's about it, because she does all of Pat's reports and stuff right now. Fits in her wage. Make Ashley completely utilities, so we would take care of all of Ashley's wages and benefits. That's what and then we can talk more on this employee cost, because I have a few more, one more thing on that. But let's talk about this thing right now. What do you guys think about it?
I think it's always good to get ahead, and you know, if we do have somebody that's going to be retiring, to get ahead and get somebody that is, you know, get them trained. I mean, I don't know, to be honest.
I guess I'm not necessarily sure what they're, I mean, she can fill that role, but I'm not sure how that really changes much, because I think there's still some interaction.
Well, there's always gonna be interaction, no
Right.
matter what. Even if we don't pay part of someone's, there's always gonna be interaction. I mean,
Are we
unless
talking-
you move them
I mean,
completely
if
to a
there's not
different
a
building.
big dollar difference, I guess I don't see the reason to change much here. Because I'm sure when Ashley needs help, even if she was our utility clerk, she's still gonna get help from Sarah. And
I mean,
the
all
other way
four
around.
of them all do
Right.
everything.
Right, so,
So no matter what, we're still, I mean,
I-
there's gonna be interaction.
I think the main thing is just to get the cost sharing part right. I'm not worried about necessarily titles.
So has anybody else actually spoken to another dual government community to understand how they're structured? I've called 7 of them, and none of them have a cost sharing agreement, none of them have a sharing agreement in writing, ironically. And I thought that made total sense, so I've been going down that road, you know, let's put some sort of similar to a 28E concept together. They don't exist. So, I mean, it's kind of a free-for-all under, I guess, under the current status. Communities larger than us or smaller than us, they have a voted-in board, and there's nothing standard. So I understand what you're saying. Then you have somebody dedicated on the financial side, 100% to utilities. Pat would be that on the operation side in the current form. So,
And it's not that we couldn't address it down the road, but it's hard to make any changes for an employee that's gonna retire 3 years from now. And you really can't. Can we afford to hire the replacement 3 years ahead of time and pay?
No, I
an extra
wouldn't do
salary?
that.
Okay. I mean,
Right
we can
now,
talk.
right now, I'm just bringing that up on him, because when I asked him, he said, oh, it could be 2, could be 3 years, it could be tomorrow,
Right.
is what he said.
I think that's what I said, yeah.
And we'll know,
Yes.
we'll know when he tells us.
And I understand that, but that's what they did with him, when they hired him, they had him come in a whole year, right?
Over a year.
Over a year to be with Doug. I'm only asking for 6 months.
A year was almost, it was too much. It was too much.
Well, and that's, and I'm not gonna argue that point. I'm just gonna argue the point that until we get a date from Pat,
Right, and I was
we
just
can't
using
really act
him,
anyway.
I was just bringing that up. Mine right now is more Ashley,
Mhm.
if she's willing to do it. Is, mine right now is that. Where she does so much, I mean, she does all his reports, she does, what all does she do, Pat?
Oh, a lot of the reports, and most of the reports are the first quarter of the year. There's about 7 or 8 reports that have to be done for the state and federal government, and Ashley keeps track of those and does those. And then throughout the year, it's just,
Pretty much whatever you asked her.
yeah, pretty much. There, I mean, the workload goes down after that, but there's still, she does, throughout the year, she still does quite a bit.
so there's really 3 ways that I guess I've thought about this. One, there's being single, which is, Greenfield's model set up that way. They're 100% independent from, the Greenfield municipality does not operate or integrate with the city. They write them a check for property tax estimates on property they take up, okay? They charge the city for their water and electric, and then in turn, utilities pays them for property tax estimated rates for real estate. The middle ground would be something like Guthrie Center and Winterset. They share staff, they write checks, nobody on a yearly basis, they're all monthly. So that would be something that I would like to, we did that agreement on a yearly basis, it's probably more common. I don't know that they're,
And you'd have to go back to the original ballot too. We had this conversation as well about what was originally given to the utility board.
yeah, which is the appointment.
And you can't, for like us, we can't get the ballot, cause it
Right.
burned up in a fire.
But I think there's just one statute that talks about what a utility board function is for a public vote to be. I mean, if a city does something completely on top of that, I don't know. I mean,
We can look those up though.
So we can put this back,
Looking at, from a service standpoint, like, trying to look at the goals first, like, before we try to implement solutions, we're looking at any problems that we see, and then looking for goals, and then looking at structural changes. And I don't know what we've done from a review analysis perspective of, here are the things that are working well and things that aren't working well in the current structure, that we know. I don't know the impetus of changing this structure right now. If somebody in the citizenry asked me, why did you make this change? You know, I don't know if I'd be able to answer that. I don't know if we've done that review yet.
I've had people, and I'm not gonna get into it here, but I have had people come up and discuss this with me from the town people. And I'm not gonna make no comments here right now. I can tell you in person what I've been told. But, I don't know. I just wanna hear everyone's input, and we can discuss it at our next meeting if you want it on the agenda, that's fine. I just wanna know what you guys all think.
Well, I guess I'm kinda in the same boat. I mean, I need a why. I don't see making changes just to make changes. I need a why are we making this change? Like you said, is something not working? You know, how, are we gonna improve anything by just making a change? I mean, I'm not saying we can't review that.
Okay,
And
then I
discuss
can
it,
put
but-
on the agenda to go in closed session if we need to at our next meeting. Because I will not say it out public.
Yeah, I'd like to have an intended goal. What's the goal of it?
So, okay. On this, employee cost share, and I had talked to Jolly about this earlier today. If we could do monthly, that would be okay, but I didn't know if I misunderstood it at our meeting, like when we voted on the wage increase. Okay, I have no problem doing the wage increase, but from what I got when Jolly was talking, and we talked about it today, Jolly and I did. So I asked him, I said, did I misunderstand this? And so I told him, I says, but say they wanted to go 5% and we said 4%. So if they want to do 5%, are they telling us that we have to do 5%? And he said, yes. I don't agree with that, because that's spending our money. We offered 4%. So he said what we need to do is we need to put a provision.
Instead of it being maybe 50-50, the board would have the authority to negotiate or renegotiate that percentage. So you're not directly, rejecting the 4% COLA, but the way that it's currently structured, and the whole point of before this meeting was Steve Brick and Dwayne were going to submit a joint legal memo
Right.
to basically explain, what authorities the city council has over city employees versus the authority under utility board employees, so that everyone's on the same page. So we're still waiting on that joint legal memo. The two attorneys do agree. They haven't told me what the letter's going to say, but they do agree with what they're going to say in the memo. So, in that cost share agreement, you could potentially have an annual, like around the budget time before the city adopts their budget, you could potentially, instead of 50%, maybe it's 46% to kind of accommodate for if the city's going to go through with a 5% increase for cost of living adjustment. But in general, the city council is who has oversight over city employees. Utility board employees are separate obviously from the city council.
So that's my input on that part of the cost share. I have no problem doing it, but I really don't want to do it or yearly. We could do it
I don't,
quarterly, do it monthly. I don't care. I don't want to do it yearly. And
And the cost of living adjustment would only happen at one time, so it'd be just that July 1 fiscal year date.
type of change that would be made for hiring if we had somebody full-time, an actual bona fide schedule, and then I'd correct it on this sharing deal. To me, Brick was talking about this sharing deal, it made total sense. They don't exist. No other town our size, a little bigger, a little smaller, use these things. And I think maybe because it makes them tied to something. It makes it an inflexible environment wherein you have segregation of duties, and that issue's brought up in an audit.
Yep.
And so if you rubber stamp something that says you do A, B, and C, then you can't do D. So, I don't,
Are you saying we don't need a sharing agreement? Just
I'm
move-
telling
move-
you,
move ahead
no
like
one
that?
comes up with new ideas, right? So I was looking for somebody to copy or some information to share that would be efficient. And I thought there might be a sharing agreement that you could steal from somebody. They don't exist. Not one town I call had one that has a voted in dual government situation or structure the way we do. Not one of them.
But there are government entities that have sharing agreements between them.
I'm sure there are. I was looking for something that was a comparative to us.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to start that party, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It'd
could
be
be
the
multiple
first one
items.
to try to do one and then have a bunch of issues with it. And so, it was a learning for me to say, okay, I got larger towns and smaller towns that don't do this. And so,
But haven't we had a sharing agreement?
what?
Haven't we had a sharing agreement of some sense? in
With
some
the
sense?
utilities or with the city?
Yeah.
An unwritten
You know,
one,
it's
correct.
been
Yes, an
verbal,
unwritten
but,
one. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
Right.
we were looking at a legal document to modify over time. And I don't think that's a wise thing to do
So
based
are you
off
saying
of.
we don't need a legal?
No.
document? Okay, I'm okay with
No.
that.
That's my own opinion off of, you know,
And
Why fix
just,
something
that's
that's
one
not
of,
broken?
that's one of the repeated audit findings though, is that we don't have a cost sharing agreement, so, I would, as a
but
staff
what
person, I
audit
would
though?
process,
Mhm.
and both found that we should have, there was a recommendation to have a cost share agreement, just so in paper, you know what the transfers are throughout the year, which employees are being paid out of that cost sharing agreement, and I would defer to an expert in finance.
I'm not
to-
saying that, I think we're talking about two different things. The cost sharing is one thing, the job duties that Steve was talking about, with who does what, I think,
Yep.
that doesn't exist in any of these. The cost sharing concept of, you know, we transfer money once a month or once a year,
Yep.
that probably does. I was
Yeah.
looking for more of, you know, 80% of the time is spent doing this, and, you know, more documentation that Steve was gonna write up, and that type of detail doesn't exist.
I mean, we could do it that way, but I think, I remember him talking, it would be a lot simpler to look at as an overall, whether it's 50-50 or 60-40, rather than trying to split employees. Surely we can come up with a reasonable estimate if that needs to change going forward.
And I mean,
I don't think we need to
auditors,
divide each
auditors
individual.
also come up with things repeatedly because they have to.
Right.
And so my level of, you know,
I'm gonna wait till they come.
tolerance for these procedural recommendations is, you know, nothing has ever barred us from selling our debt. We've always got preferred pricing. And so I don't view us as having, you know, a lot of issues. They probably make that recommendation with a lot of these places, but, anyway, I don't know. The cost sharing versus job duty sharing is probably separate.
I think we're splitting hairs with
Fair.
that. I do, because I think each individual's gonna have a job description. And that job description is gonna cover both utilities and cities where it has to. I think in our case, we just need to come up with a cost sharing agreement. That's where I'm at with it. I don't know if anybody else is different.
And we've
I mean,
roughly had that for
Sarah's
years.
job description.
It's been unwritten.
Her description could
Yeah.
say she's gonna spend 75% of her time on this side and 25 on this side, and maybe Jolly's is 50-50, and maybe Ashley's is the opposite of Sarah's. If it all washes out in the end, we're probably talking about very small dollar amounts difference that I think we can figure out a percentage and go, whether it's 50-50 or something else. That, to me, makes the most sense.
Ultimately, to me, we're paying a staff, we're paying Jolly to manage a business, and whether he delegates to X person or Y person, or hires some subcontractor to do a piece of work, we're hiring out for that service.
Correct.
So, to me, all of this to me is pointing toward whether it's a sharing agreement or whatever you wanna call it. At the very least, it's putting new policies in place internally that says, this is the expectation of what we get from that service. And that's what we're trying to pay for, and that's what we hope to expect from our administrative team managed by Jolly. So, and I wanna take the ambiguity out of it, because I can't imagine that it's a very fun thing for an administrator to look at things and say, well, one day we might do this, and one day we might do this. We should be putting a book of policies together on all of these types of things where we don't know what we should do from day to day or month to month.
And we're, as a board, we're not managing that day to day. That's Jolly's job.
Right.
But if there are things like a service that's not being provided in the proper way, or we want to elevate the service in some way, then there needs to be a communication structure for how that plays out, how that type of feedback gets back through management and back to us eventually if needed. Like, to me, an administrator needs to be able to handle that as much as possible if he or she can, and then bring it to the board if absolutely necessary. So, whether that's from the council or from us or any other governing entity, I think that's typically how things work and should work.
So where we voted the other night, or the last time, to do yearly can we change that for right now and do like monthly or on paying them?
I'd put the motion in on monthly. I'll make that motion.
So every month we want to review the cautionary agreement? Or the-
Well,
the
Well,
cautionary
not,
structure?
not that part, I'm not.
I think it's
I think
make the
he's-
No,
payments
I think
monthly.
you're
It's
saying
the
transfer.
payment.
Just
Okay,
the monthly
that-
payments.
Monthly
Monthly
transfers.
transfers,
Yeah,
that's
a
fine.
monthly
Yes.
transfer.
No, it's valid question.
That's a significant procedural change.
No. The,
I guess to me, it all comes out in the wash, I'm not.
we look at if there needs to be a change. If we do it monthly and we do like 6 months and something needs to be changed, we can change it after that 6 months instead of waiting a whole year.
Well, you're talking about changing the agreement now.
No, you're talking about making
No,
monthly
just
payments versus
making monthly
yearly.
payments.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But what
the
are we
thing
gonna
was
change?
we were gonna make yearly payments
Yeah.
and tell me if I'm wrong. And that if something needed changed, that's when we would change it.
Yeah,
And-
before the budget adoption, yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So if we do monthly payments, we get 6 months down the road and we decide, well, this needs to be changed, then we can change it then and still, instead of having to wait the whole year on changing it.
Talking about budget amendment, right?
So monthly
Do you
transfers
do you
versus
understand what
yearly,
I'm
that's
saying?
all we're
You're
talking
looking at
about,
me
right?
like you're
I'm
lost.
not seeing,
It's monthly transfers versus yearly transfers,
Right.
is that all
That's,
we're
that's all
doing?
we're talking about. I don't-
That's what I'm asking.
Don't we do this all the time with budget amendments
right,
for anything
Yeah.
that we need to change over time? Like, we set the budget to give some solidity to what's going to happen in the next year. And unless, I mean, I don't mind having more, review more often if there needs to be things that we discuss and keep on the front of our burners so that we
That's what I'm meaning.
that's good.
That is what I'm
But you're
meaning.
thinking that we're gonna review something every month. I'm not doing it that way.
No,
I'm doing
we're
it
not
as
gonna review it.
monthly payments
Not
versus
every
yearly
month.
payments.
I
that's
would
all.
rather make a monthly payment
I agree with you.
instead of a yearly payment. But what I'm saying is what Neil said is if we need to review it before the year is up, we have that option to review it and change it instead of waiting that year. Because what we voted on was to do it once a year. Right?
And the draft agreement, it's still in, obviously we don't have it in front of us, it's still being drafted, so. I
Right.
think that part's still flex.
but that agreement's still for a year, isn't it? Or is there a certain amount of time if we
No,
want
and I don't
to
think
change?
there's anything
I
wrong
don't think
with
I don't know that that's gonna make any difference, no matter how we transfer money. To me, that's six of one, half dozen of the other.
I'd still like to just make it
is.
monthly.
It's just cash flow. I would leave it to our staff wants to do it, cause I don't see that it makes a difference.
I'm referring back to Winterset, they got shared staff, they're in the dating deal, not married, not single, and they share staff and they do monthly transfers, so that's
Well,
the,
I would agree that if we were actually, if we were looking at like this as a service provider, we probably wouldn't pay a full year's service all at once. We'd probably be paying installments of some sort, so if you wanna look at it that way, I can see the motive or the necessity maybe of doing it that way, but, and what do you think?
From a budgeting perspective, it makes our job in City Hall much easier if it's just the one transfer, and then you can still have a review process, and then we can always have a budget amendment in the middle of the year, that can still happen. But from a simplicity side, audit trail finding, it makes sense to have it just be, we adopt the budget, this is the X dollar figure, we're just gonna transfer that to the general throughout the year, and then that's how we navigate that. But if it goes monthly, I think there is a path for us to navigate it, but ideally, yeah, it would just be the one, so.
Well, right now, we got a motion to go monthly. That was your motion, right?
Yep.
So, with that motion, do you wanna add on, or just leave it as that, to put a provision in there on,
What do you
like,
mean, put a provision?
like if, on the raises? What we were talking about,
I was just thinking of just making monthly installments. That was what the motion was for,
Okay,
and that's it.
okay, so we'll
I
go with
mean, if
that.
you wanted a different motion for that, then
We can do a different motion for that.
Correct.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, how do you vote? Herrick?
yes.
Crawford?
No,
Sherman?
No.
Belden?
Yeah,
Amy, yes. Okay, then I'll make a motion to do the provision when it comes to the raises that, how do I wanna say this? Jolly,
You just say subject to any cost of living adjustment, the cost sharing agreement can be reviewed at that time. I forgot how I would go about it, but.
okay, so I'll make a motion that,
But before this, one thing I want for clarification is
Okay.
that Steve Brick and Dwayne are still putting together that legal memo, which could potentially change the trajectory of that
okay,
answer.
so we'll hold off on
So
that
hold
one.
off on
Why
that.
don't we
Till we
table
get
that?
that.
Right. If it's something we're gonna review annually anyway, I think that's enough. If we're gonna
So-
if that's when we could say, we're only gonna do 45% with these raises. To me, that's
Okay.
not necessary.
but if we just follow a simple percentage and you get this process in place, we shouldn't have to review that stuff, right? I mean, it should just be-
we're unhappy with it.
Correct, yeah.
So,
So I guess I'm trying to get at this so we mentioned a lot of things here. We mentioned the utilities clerk, utilities general manager, sharing agreement, examples, and audit issues with payroll structure, and we already dealt with that one. What are some other topics that, are concerns? You mentioned goals. What goals are not being met, or, if we're gonna make this a open deal?
I think that's a discussion we have to have if we're talking any staffing changes.
Okay.
Is there something that's not working or?
Okay, yeah, I get that, so are there goals that are not being met? That's what I'm trying to get at is, that- So this
How do-
takes,
how do
this,
we
this
know?
transfer jolly takes care of the audit, payroll issues?
Yep.
Okay.
The employees knowing, can you tell me what all jobs they do? I know what all
No,
jobs
no,
they do.
right.
Can you tell me what all jobs they do? See, none of us know.
Right,
Just like these guys, I didn't know what these guys did. So I went and I talked to them one day, asked them, what does your job consist of? Because if someone from town asked me, I couldn't tell them. I didn't know. I could have said, well, Ben did water, Dustin does electric, that's all I could have told them. So how many of us here on this board know what these city employees do? I know what they do.
and I don't.
I'd just like to add, we all write out job descriptions of what we do every day, and I think that is probably available, so if anyone's interested in that.
Right.
I think that can be provided to you. You can talk to us also, but if anyone wants to see that, even
Right.
anyone, as far as I'm concerned, from the city, and just a citizen wanted to see that, I'd be comfortable with seeing that personally.
Right.
I just wanna-
Do other people have interest in a salary scale, like across?
I think I would call it a salary range.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think there is. If we're too low, it's just like.
Just a
we ran
survey.
into-
Well, but also having a range for the jobs, right?
Right,
there
yeah,
should
so
be a
every
range,
job
yeah,
should have a
yeah.
range.
And I think they should
And
be
just-
capped.
Yeah, just so we're all aware, that's part of the whole
Well,
HR overhaul update
Right.
process is employee handbook, organizational chart, job descriptions, and a salary matrix
Right.
for
Gotcha.
all
That's all.
staff, so
Gotcha.
we're in the process. of
there's a
doing that.
cap, and it is the salary range is the cap.
Okay.
So any sharing agreement's only gonna be a cost structure, a payment structure. That's the only thing I'll see if I can dig one up from some godforsaken town in Iowa.
So has anyone else got anything, I think we need to have ideas of what these guys do.
I mean, to,
For their jobs before we can do any goals.
Well,
Yeah,
as far as changing staff, I mean, I think those goals are more on a broader realm. It's not necessarily individual employees on our end. It's, are we getting what we need from City Hall and the things that we're sharing with City Hall? I think it's more of a broad thing rather than an individual person thing.
But don't you, the reason I asked about the single, dating, and married is don't you have to pick as a board what you wanna offer the public under those three circumstances before you can determine those things? That's all I'm asking.
Well, that's what, I mean, job descriptions, that will handle what each position is.
Today, but I'm saying, if we're talking about staff planning, potential retirements down the road, what are you wanting, what does the board wanna look at for a provider over a number of years? That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, to me, you gotta pick one of those models to follow, what works best. It's, depends on what level.
And I have no problem sharing.
No, I'm just saying they all exist. So before you
Right.
can get into job duties and scales, how do you do that without picking what you think is the best, run or most efficient way to offer services?
but how do you do that until you know what's the best set of services and the quality and of services that you're looking for and all the different things that go into that? I mean, to this group's credit, I don't think we've ever really needed to go through an extensive,
That's the whole point.
what
I
are the
totally agree.
employees
Yeah.
doing on a day-to-day basis type of thing. Have we been meeting our objectives of, we provide a service as a whole, group of providing electric and water, and we bill our customers, and we provide the service, and we make sure when there's outages that they get handled appropriately, and we look at long-term projects and all that type of stuff, and all the administrative work and the audits and the budgeting, all that stuff's running. Like, so what within that whole category or set of categories of different services that we're providing, both internally and externally, are we not doing as well as we want to have happen?
Well, if we were operated as a totally separate unit from the city, we would have, our superintendent would be doing everything, and that's who we would be dealing with. We still would be dealing with the rest of the employees on a day-to-day basis. That's not our job as a board, and it's not our job with City Hall either to try to manage how that's done in City Hall on a day-to-day basis. We pay an administrator
Right.
to do that. So I just think we need to have, how are we gonna pay for the service we're getting? If we're unhappy, then with what we're getting, then we deal with it. But as far as us managing that on a day, I think that's what we're trying to do here, and I don't think that's our job. We're a board. We set policy, we give our utilities direction. We do not run the utility on a day-to-day basis. Us members don't.
And that's not what I'm
That,
getting
it feels
at.
like where we're going.
No, that's not what I'm trying to get across. We have never, for the last 30-some years, there has never been nothing in writing, pretty much. We need it more in writing, where the utilities is the utilities. They really have nothing to do with the city. The only thing that they have to do with the city is the mayor gets to recommend who's on the board, and the city council gets to vote who comes on the board. And that came, because when I was looking for the paperwork, I was dealing with Steve Brick. And this is what he informed me, that it is a state code. And now we're switching over that, the city has to vote for a raise, and then it has to go to city council to vote on it. It's never been that way. We are our own entity. This is what it's boiling down to. We're our own entity. And this is how we have ran. Have we ran it wrong all these years?
I would say yes, from what I saw in the reports on the organization that
But sh-
Marquita,
I
she
don't-
has never worked with a
Yeah.
town that has had something like this, and she
Correct.
even admitted that.
Correct, but some of the findings, like from the
Yep,
audit,
yeah, some
will tell you
some
that
of those findings that Marquita had, I'll be respectful since Steve's not here, he agrees with Marquita, so I don't wanna say that, since he's not here, and I'll just let the legal memo kind of speak for that, cause I think we're having a lot of existential questions, what is the board, what are we, you know, so I think before we get to that point, I think this legal memo will help set a baseline of the board, these are the duties, this is what was identified in city code, you can pull up the city code where the utility board is a part of that chapter section, and kind of, those are the powers of the city council, and obviously the public that voted to have the utility board in the first place. It's all explicit in there, so, the city council has home rule, but boards and commissions do not, necessarily have that same power, so I think we just need to wait for that legal memo, that'll help kind of provide a baseline to everyone. We have a lot of legal questions right now that I wish Steve was here to answer.
Yeah.
And so I think once we see that, I think everyone will be on the same page. So it'll help explain city council's, duties, in relation to its employees, and obviously the utility board in relation to its employees. So I think it was last year when Steve had the last memo regarding, utility employee and serving on city council. This is a little bit different. So this is just something where he and Dwayne are taking the time to make sure that they're going over the state code, so chapter 388, and then also the city code as well, because a lot of, like I mentioned, Greenfield Guthrie Center, I'm sure it's explicit in their city code what the explicit powers of the utility board is, and so that's why I think it's an apples to oranges comparison, because it's whatever was voted on at the time. So but ours is very explicit on personnel management, and I think that's what the purpose of this memo is to really dig into those responsibilities to help us for the cost sharing agreement. So
Okay, because right now I feel like we don't know what we have the right to do and we don't have the right to do.
Basically, if they're a function of the city, we don't have hiring and firing over them.
Correct.
That's the end of the story.
Correct.
It's, do you want to create a utilities clerk, utilities general manager, and move more towards Greenfield? So that's your,
Right now, we're sharing, and it's probably saving us some money by sharing.
absolutely.
I'm
with the
sure it
city.
is, yeah.
So we could go all on our own, but it's probably gonna cost us more to do that.
And I understand that, but what I'm feeling right now is when I bring stuff up, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? Because we've done it for all these years this way, and now we're getting told, well, you need to do it this way this time, but this time we don't. I just don't know.
Well, we're getting an expert
Where we
opinion from
go.
our lawyers, both the city and the utility.
So-
So maybe we should wait and listen to them. That's,
I just wanted to make the one point that none of these towns have anything other than cost general agreements. I was thinking that Steve's gonna put a 30-page memo together that we would pay for and implement on job duties and stuff. Those don't exist, so didn't wanna waste money going down that road. I was corrected on that after making some phone calls,
Right.
so that's the,
let's see what they bring us.
I mean, profit agreement, I have no problem with.
So what types of things are you talking about that if it comes up, you don't know the proper path or the proper way to handle it?
Okay, so when I looked up back maybe a year now, when I had looked up about maybe going out on our own, and I was dealing with Chip and I was dealing with Steve, and that's what I was told about 1947, how, the town they were under the town and they bankrupted the utilities, and so the town people voted on this and that you needed this documentation. And at that time I was told the only thing city has to do with the utilities, because we are our own entity, and the only thing city had to do with the utilities was the mayor had the right to recommend someone to be on the board, and the city council had the right to vote who's on the board. Okay, so now, at our last meeting, so to me that means this board has all the other rights to deal with all utility stuff. So now at the last meeting, we're talking about raises, wages and stuff. And then we get told, we recommended 4%, which Pat is covered because he is utility, but like these guys. And now we have to wait for city council to approve it. We've never done that. So it's like, it's never went to city council to okay it. It's whatever we have said, we've said, and that's how it's been. So am I saying it where you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and that structure has always been odd to me on how, like, I don't understand how you have employees that are under multiple umbrellas, that don't have one employer, and then you may be contracted out to do services with another entity, but someone is the actual employer of those
And I
employees.
understand that, and I have no problem with that.
Well, the way we were doing it with two totally separate paychecks, from what I understand, that basically, technically, all the city hall employees had two part-time jobs.
And see, and I never knew anything about two separate paychecks until Marquita
So-
said
So
something.
that's where this is coming from, and I think the council over the city hall employees is enough. I don't think everybody needs multiple bosses on that end.
And I agree
If
with
they're
that,
telling us the
but
proper way is to do it the way they're proposing, I mean, they're our legal experts, our two lawyers. We always say, let's listen to the people we pay to advise us.
right.
Let's do that.
And I have no problem with that, but see, okay, we've always had to say, like, say we want to do on Sarah, we want to do you're the goat tonight. We want to do a review on her, and we want to do that. Say we've always done that. We wanted to do that. Okay, so say the city does a review on her. We're higher than what the city says, but the city only wants to pay her for what they want, but we want to pay her for more. We have always done that. We have always paid her more, because in 1 year we went 8%. Utilities went 8% to get all the city employees up to what everybody else around here was getting. The city did not do it.
Separate and creating that job that would be 100% of utilities function like Pat. When we made Pat report to Ash, that probably broke city code too, right? I mean, that probably wasn't,
I mean,
That
it's
was-
just,
that didn't follow what was in writing.
because now it seems like we're not able to do that, and it's like we're losing a little bit. I feel like we're losing a little bit of our control as this board, because we've always done it that way.
And the only way you can get
and
around that is
I
hiring.
don't know how.
The only way you can get around that, from the way I understand that, is by hiring a position that's 100% utilities.
Right.
Whatever that title is, whatever that job function is, they can't serve on the city side based on the code that I've ever read, or discussions from what Steve said at the last meeting. If they're a city employee as well, then they're gonna be managed by the city side.
And I understand,
So,
I
mean-
understand that. And I know changes have to happen. I know they do. Because it's been a wacky 30-some years. I'm not saying Ash did a bad job, I'm not saying that at all. But there's been some different things. I mean, on how things were done. And now they're all coming up. I mean, am I making sense?
Yeah, yeah. And just like I said, with policy and making sure that Jolly has, instructions in front that says, if this type of thing comes up, this is the appropriate way that I'm supposed to go about doing this, because that's the policy that the board set. It would be nice if we had, if our chair had that same sort of set of instructions, or,
It would
says,
help.
when this comes up, this is how I deal with it, and this is where I go to. So I think that's what we're trying to accomplish in all of this, is to is to make things less confusing.
Because right now, I'm totally confused.
So going
I
back
mean,
to
I
your
am.
original discussion of a utilities clerk, is that the right answer? Is there a town that offers that service or that position? Or is that falling under what normally a utilities general manager would do in this other structure? I mean, if you wrote down the things that are on your mind, that,
I was told what a general manager, if you went with a general manager for the utility, it's pretty much the same thing that a superintendent does.
It's just a different name.
It's just a different name. It'd be the exact same thing as what he's doing right now.
Well, no, it would be how we define the position.
True,
So-
true.
good point.
And how we were gonna define that position would determine the type of person we would put in that position.
Right. But what I was told, you're right, you're 100% right, but like using him as an example.
Well, superintendent is just a title.
Right,
It's all how we assign
yeah.
responsibility.
And that the guys would still go to the general manager as their boss.
Correct.
And the general manager would come to the board. So, And-
Could I add one thing? I know it's
Sure.
not a turn for me to speak.
oh no, go ahead.
It's not.
I just wanna point out, just so everyone's aware, that Pat's position, as far as I know, and has always historically been a working superintendent. So it is typically someone who has some experience in the field. And you'll notice, like, Pat wears FR clothes, he wears work boots like the rest of us. So if we're shorthanded, we can call on help, you know, from that superintendent to come help us. And sometimes that does happen, especially for shorthanded. When we start saying things like general manager, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but that sounds like more of an administrative position. So if we choose to go that way, if that job duty did not include working outside of the office, it is sort of a net loss for us employees as far as one person to help, you know, it's rare we need the superintendent to come out and help us, but it does happen. So that's just one thing to keep in mind if you make changes with that position where it's more of an administrative position. then-
Well, I remember, this is something I specifically talked to Marquita about, and generally in a utility our size, a general manager, you would be looking at 75% in the field, 25% not, for a utility our size. You're generally not gonna hire a general manager that's like an administrator like what we have here. You are hiring somebody that's wearing the same work clothes to work. That's how most small towns do it.
I was just using that as an example, you
Right.
know,
Yeah, I don't wanna presume what you.
yeah.
Just a reminder, we do have a motion on the table, moved by Avi to create a provision in the cost sharing
No,
agreement.
drop it.
You made the motion,
Right. We
and
don't
so
have-
we have to follow it.
Okay.
You could
Okay.
rescind, you could rescind your motion.
I want to rescind it.
Okay.
We'll discuss that after Steve gives us the paperwork and stuff.
Okay,
I forgot.
it's okay, that's what I'm here for, guys.
So is there anything else?
I don't think so. I don't have anything.
I would propose we have more of a working session with our employee leads along with us at a table in the center and not like this, and have a better type of discussion on what we're looking for in the future of all this type of stuff.
Just like a work session sometime.
Yeah,
So like, who would you want there?
You just.
I mean, your leads. So all the city, or you're talking streets, which we have nothing to do with streets, just the city employees that we deal with?
and we might just start with Jolly and Pat,
I was just, why don't you tell Pat?
Okay.
and yeah,
If we wanted to include more, we could, but yeah, that's a good start.
Okay.
I definitely, I mean, what would hurt if we had all of our folks at that, just as a discussion, whenever that happens. I mean, if we're gonna talk about this, it shouldn't just be,
All over utility employees?
yeah.
We could do that.
I would like to have all the utility guys, I would like to have the girls and Alan, you know, so we're all, what do you think about that, Neil?
Yeah,
That's- yeah.
Because that way you guys can all learn to know what they do. I can tell you 90% of what she does. She's going 100% a day, you know, doing all different things. I can pretty much tell you what Ashley does. And I can tell you what Nadine does.
I was thinking we might want a preparatory meeting for that meeting, starting with Jolly, to talk about the structure of what we want to try to accomplish during that meeting, when we want to try to accomplish something. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but Jolly's been in the job for a month, and he's still got lots of stuff that he's trying to get accomplished and learn and go through and stuff. And I'm sure this is the top right. This is like number one on your list. I'd love to get this done first.
Oh, yeah.
And you haven't went crazy
I-
and left
No,
us yet.
no, not at all. But
I think this is necessary for us to get done and try to make it one of our top priorities, but I don't know that us putting it as Jolly's number one topic right now is the most beneficial for all of us.
No, I think, no.
So I would like to get it
Yeah.
done. I just like take a little bit of pressure off, and
Yep.
so that's my thought.
I like that.
And so,
I do.
just going back to the structure change from yearly to monthly, the only reason to do that is because of those changes, Neil. So there's not one transfer made, so then you gotta transfer things back, right? As you work through those things, I mean, I still think we should have our goals, you know, on what we want to do and what's come up from Marquita's report and other things.
I'd say, maybe give the directive, something like Jolly over the next 3 months of you working and seeing all the operations and learning into the job more, like try to document as you're going along of things pertaining to the discussion that we've had tonight, and come back with some sort of, not to say it's all on you to do something, but your thoughts on the game plan of moving forward.
I think
But see,
one
that
thing
goes-
that will help everyone, we can just put together like an operational workflow of all the positions, including, I know utility has the job descriptions, but we can probably just put together like maybe a daily and weekly workflow. And then we can use that for that strategic planning work session of, hey, what's working well, what's not, and then have that conversation, so.
What's wrong with a couple of board members just organizing other entities to come here and present how they have their structure? Like, just from an educational perspective, right? I mean, you could have the Winterset superintendent come here, or whatever they're called, general manager, they're a general manager. You could have that person come and say, this person does that, as he's putting this together, you're learning about other ones as well, to optimize what, may or may not be going on now.
It can be done.
Another Greenfield person come up, we're completely single, and here's how ours works. They've got an army of people that work for them. I think they operate more than just Greenfield. I think they must have, outside of that, I thought the REC had, but they must have additional work.
They do work for Fontenelle.
Fontenelle, okay,
Is it
gotcha.
water in Fontenelle or just electric too? Is it just water?
I don't know if it's both or
I was
just
gonna say
water.
water.
Yeah.
Water for
I
sure.
think they supply water.
Yeah, I don't know, you can go up to Panora, they only have city council over everything.
Hey, anything else? That it? Adjourn.
I'm picking up
Oh.
everything.